Live. All right, we should be live. Super excited, y'all, to kick off this call. This is really a call that I want anybody that's relatively new or maybe been doing this a while that needs to kind of reset back to the big picture of what we can accomplish here. And so if you're brand new, maybe even you're a customer or you're a promoter that like wants to truly understand what we do here at Prove It and why is it different than what we traditionally have done. So I have a group of people on here. I'm going to have them asking me some questions later if they have any, but I wanted to take 10 minutes and really break down the foundation and simplicity of what we call as attraction marketing. And I'm going to explain what it is, but also what's the right way of accomplishing it to get the best results for you long-term success. So anytime that you're starting this as a customer, our goal is to help you get your product for free or at least get some product discounted, get some extra points toward discounted product. But even more so, if you're a promoter, how do you actually build a business around this and not feel salesy and not feel like I'm selling to my friends and family? Because that's super important, because that's the old model. The old model is you got to become a salesperson. Well, in our business model, it says community-based marketing. So marketing community is a team of people. It's community, your tribe, right? Based marketing is how do you get that message to people? But more importantly, how do you do it without feeling uncomfortably salesy? Let's use that. You might get a little uncomfortable. I'm not saying it's going to be easy because you got to find the right ways to talk to people. But at the same time, there's right ways to do this. And there's ways that are less effective. And I don't want you to be less effective. I want you to be more effective. I want you to be very, very good at this, no matter what level you're starting from. But the first thing, it's really important to have a clarity of what it all looks like and what it is. So if we haven't met, I'm Dustin Schaefer. I've been with Prove It for 7 years. And I'm super passionate about this. And to be honest, I've never done marketing before. I've never done this business model before Prove It. And I had to learn how to do this without being salesy, because that's what I thought I had to do. I had to sell. And that's not what we want to teach. And that's not what we want to do. So what I want to do is take like a few minutes and break down this concept of attraction marketing. And what does that really mean? So in the chat, if you don't mind, who's relatively new, who's only been in for maybe a year or less? And in the chat, just put me down if you don't mind. And then our old school people been in for a little longer. And that's great. So what happens is we have to ask ourselves, are we attracting people and are we using attraction marketing or curiosity? Okay. And so attraction marketing is not about selling the product. So a guy asked me today, should I just post my link on Facebook? Right? Should I post my link on Facebook? And I say, I wouldn't suggest that. Why? That seems salesy. There's no relationship. Does he mean that he's not going to get some sales? No, he might get a couple sales, but at the end of the day, he's trying to sell the product versus attracting people to him. So the whole point of how we like to build our business is to get people to ask you what you're doing. So the idea here is in the chat, if anybody's ever asked you what you're doing, I would love, what did you post? Or what did you say to somebody? Put it in the chat, and I might read these off, and then I'll actually talk about that a little bit later. I'm going to pull up the chat box here in a second. So when you do attraction marketing, I'll give you an example of what I did when I got started. So I didn't call people and say, "Hey, I got a new company, or I got a new business I'm starting, and I don't know if you're looking to build a business and make $1 million, but I think you could make $1 million in this business." I didn't say that to them. Now that actually is not too bad to say. People would probably go, "Well, what is it?" I didn't actually go to people and say, "Hey, you should drink these ketones because they're going to change your life forever. You should drink these ketones because they're the best product that I've ever had. They're the most amazing things, and they're going to change your life forever." I didn't say that. What I asked them is, "Hey, I know that you're looking to lose some weight, right? And you've been wanting to for a long time. I think I found something. Are you willing or wanting to check it out?" There's a difference between what I asked. I'm asking them a question to see if they're coming back to me. Okay. So this is called attraction marketing. If you're on social media, if I hold up a pack and say, "Hey, you should buy my ketones because they're the best product I found." If I say that on there, am I attracting or am I selling? I'm selling. Now, if I said, "Hey, I'm going to go lose 10 pounds. Does anybody want to do it with me?" Is that attraction or is that selling? That's attraction. So what I want you to think about is that when you're putting something out there, would you ask your mom or your dad or your sister, or your aunt or uncle to put it out there? And if you're saying yes to that, you're going to attract them to them. I know Kate's on here and she does a lot of low carb recipes. She's using the recipe to attract people to her. And then she creates it into a conversation where then she can offer the ketone supplement through a conversation. Does that make sense? So in the chat, I want you to put down something for me. If you're watching this, please participate. What's one or two things that you could post or talk about that you're really confident in? Does that make sense? Now, if you're brand new here and just getting started, most likely it's not ketones or ketosis or a drink. It's usually something else. So what are you the most confident in? And typically the best way to get attraction is in something that you're confident in. Jennifer Mann here, she's really confident and she doesn't like cats, but she has a cat and she posts about her cat and people watch. So I see Jeff says grilling, cooking and grilling. Awesome. Sharing my life travels, Norma says. So do you think that Norma could attract people through travel? Yes. So too many times people get started in what we're doing and they think they have to start talking about ketones. Yes, you still have to talk about ketones. You have to talk about your journey. Maybe you talk about your result. That's an attraction tool, but that's not the way you build the business. Okay. That's not the way that it's going to grow the long-term business. That's going to be a short-term little burst, but it's not your long-term business. So the more that you can training. So Rick has got, he likes kettlebell training, gardening, natural medicine. Awesome. Dawn. I'm going to look at Dawn because I don't know Dawn as well. Dawn, if I was to go to your social media world right now, and if I was to go to your house, how much would you be talking about gardening and natural medicine?
I'm not.
You're not?
No.
Wow. What are you talking about?
Ketones.
Yeah. So I want you to take this in mind. If you start doing, and let's use social media for example, because it's very much in front of everybody's faces. If you've been posting with your kids and gardening, and then next day all you see is somebody posting about ketones, not that it's a bad thing. I'm going to encourage you to do that, right? Don't not do that. Do that. But what I want you to do is does your friends know you anymore? Does that make sense? You're talking to your audience, right? True story. When I got in the fitness industry, I had a pretty good size following, a couple thousand people follow me about fitness. I had a baby. Guess what I posted about every day? My baby. My followers started to drift away. Guess what? They didn't follow me for being a dad. They followed me for fitness. But I stopped posting about fitness because I was so excited about my baby, right? What I should have done is kept posting about the fitness and added the baby in because now I'm a dad and I'm relatable. And now I can talk to him about different parts of my life. Does this make sense? This is attraction marketing. The same thing is if you're going to go out and do a booth. Does anybody do booths here? All right, Dawn, I'm gonna use Dawn again because I know Lynn's a ninja. Lynn's not new. Dawn, at your booth, what do you talk about at your booths?
I talk about how I got sick from that I'm a nurse and that I got sick from drinking all the Mountain Dews and energy drinks and things. And
those nurses are so healthy, aren't they?
I know, we're like the worst, right? So and how I got sick and I still needed energy. And then my friend Kathy introduced me to ketones and it gave me the most energy. But the one thing I wasn't expecting was the fat loss.
So at the booth, you're talking about this.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm just going to point this out for you a second. This is fun. How good of a gardener are you?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. What if you went to a gardening booth and you talked about gardening? Now she's a nurse, so she has a little bit of an educational background. And then you put a picture of your before and better picture side by side at your gardening booth. If I sat down with you right now and had a conversation, do you think you could teach me a lot more about gardening than you could about ketones?
Probably.
So what you're going to do is you're going to get a lot of people coming to you, but then they're going, is that you? Yeah, it's me. Oh, that's my little side gig I got going on. I'm not saying that's what you need to do, but this is a strategy that most people mess up. They want to go do ketone booths everywhere. And the reality is they may not be that savvy at ketosis, right? And therefore, if they did a booth about crafting, they could get 500 people come to the booth. Well, guess what they're the most confident talking about? Crafting. At the same time, have a little picture up here, how I lost 30 pounds. So everybody, do you think there's anybody out there that likes crafting that would want to lose 30 pounds, have more energy, have more focus, feel better? And now you're not getting into your whole medical side of your story. You're just focusing on the basic benefits, which most people want. Does that make sense? So that's the difference, is that's attraction marketing. I'm not saying you can't put a ketone booth up. I would say do both. Play around with both. But if you have a skill set, Kate, I'm going to use Kate again. Kate is basically, she's building her brand through low carb, simple recipes. Does that make sense? It's not through throwing ketones to the world. Yes, is ketones in there? I don't think I've seen a ketone post of Kate's in so long. I don't remember when the last one I saw. True story. But I see all of her recipes. Now, maybe it's just Instagram wanting to send me all of her recipes. I don't know, because I do recipes too. But the reality is that I'm seeing her do the recipe. So I'm like, oh, what did Kate make today? So she's attracting me to see and watch her stuff. Cool. Jennifer Mann, how many people watch your cat videos?
Oh, 600.
She goes
700, 800.
She posts his cat videos. It goes nuts. And she actually doesn't really like cats that much. So she's like, the cats work. I'm like, then go with it. Attract people into the cats. But guess what? Do you think anybody that likes cats likes fat loss, energy, focus, mood? Does that make sense? It's attraction marketing. It's attraction marketing. When you come into this, and if you're brand new coming into this, I want you to keep in mind, you're not here to be a sales rep of ketones. Your goal is to attract people to you and have conversations with them. And then they'll find out what you're doing, because you still post about your journey. You know, you still post about your energy. You still do your curiosity piquing post about ketones, but it should be a fraction. Y'all, I'm a keto, quote unquote, guru expert, right? I'm not going to put myself up there, but I know a lot about ketones. Even my stuff isn't always about ketones. And that's all I've been doing for 20 years, just to kind of put it in perspective, right? So if you're brand new, my goal is for you to be you. Who are you? Kate said something like this, and she's not there right now, but it's like know, like, and trust. If I said that right, give me a thumbs up, anybody. Know, like, and trust. Your friends and family and people that know you, they know you as you. My friends know me as the goofy jock that's willing to probably smack him with a wet towel in the shower. Like that's how my friends know me as. They don't know me as the keto guy. I can't even sell ketones to my friends. Somebody else had to do it. True story. I had to help one of them lose weight, and he sold them all. True story. Because they wouldn't listen to me, because they don't see me that way. But I want you to be you. Right now, this is what I want you to write down. If you were to sit down and have a real conversation that you're super into and confident and happy about with a complete stranger, what would that topic be about? Now, Lola's been playing around with the ketogenic diet for a long time, but I guarantee you that Lola could talk more about Disney than about the ketogenic diet. Right, Lola?
And it's more fun.
And it's more fun. So if I was to go to Lola, I challenge Lola all the time. If I was to go to Lola's, like her tribe, I would tell her like she should focus on Disney, not on keto. Keto just happens to be part of what she does. So I want you to write this down. How do I say this? So let's say lifestyle, healthy lifestyle, sweet. So a healthy lifestyle is who Rick is. Ketones is a part of what he does. Does that make sense? So if you're really into like kids, or like, you know, like you like kids, well, that's like part of who you are, right? But ketones are just a small part of what you do or what's working for you. So you're going to sprinkle that in at the same percentage. Does that make sense? Now, if you want to go all in on keto, I'm cool with you going all in on keto. Just so you know, is that you have to be able to love it, live it, and learn it to the point where people want to follow you for that one topic. But I think it's way simpler for you to get your tribe off of what you're passionate about. If you follow Brett and Angel, they're super funny. I don't even know what their messages is besides humor. They're just funny. I follow them for humor. That's why I follow them. And then they slip in the ketones. Does that make sense? Like that's what they're using, at least socially, to build their business. So I want to take a second and just pause. I'm going to revisit this and ask any questions or answer any questions you guys have, because I'm going to challenge you. If you're brand new and you're watching this, it's about attraction marketing. The best way to do that is to write down the 3 things that you can either that represent you. If I was to ask your best friends right now, this is a great place to start. You can advance it. Kate didn't start here. She evolved into this low carb person, and she created a brand around herself. And she learned the skills to do that. I think if she would have done it when she started, it went to work. I think it worked because she built the skill set of accomplishing this, right? So, but I want you, if I was to ask your 3 or 4 or 5 closest friends and family, and I said, who is Carol? What does she like to do? Like, what is she good at? What is she like? If she could teach me something, what would they say? Because guess what? That's probably you. Does this make sense? Can you write down in the chat who that is? I'm going to challenge you. And if you have this hard for you, raise your hands. Now, if you want to go, so Jen doesn't like cats. She could probably build a following off of just not liking cats. I don't like cats, but this was funny. She could just do a million posts about I don't like cats and then she go, you know what? People keep wanting to watch it, so I'm going to post it. Like you could literally, that could be your niche online, right? That's probably not your personal niche. But I want to put down there, let me scroll here a little bit. Parenting. Layla, that's awesome. So let's dive into parenting. What does that look like? What is it like? Is it moms and dad, or is it boys or girls? Is it like, what is that like? Break it down. So Carol says gardening and lake life, right? Now, if you're going to go out there, if I was going to tell Carol to go join 2 Facebook groups, do you think she should join a keto group or a gardening group? Do you think it's easier for her to have conversations around gardening? Yes. It's natural for her. She's been doing it her whole life. And then she sprinkles in this. I mean, she has an unbelievable transformation. She can sprinkle that in constantly. She can sprinkle in my first 30 days of my transformation. My next, I don't know if you've done this, Carol, or not, but I would recommend it. Hey, this was my first 30 days. I remember back a few years ago when I got started, first 30 days. Too many people want to do the before and after, but don't forget the in between. Most people you're talking to want to just get started. So sometimes when they see somebody lose, Kathy Berry down 215 pounds, well, they look at that as a mountain to climb. Well, what about the first 30 days? I only lost 5 pounds, but it was on my journey to 200. This is how I felt when I lost 5 pounds. I was excited about moving forward in my life. Cool. Just a little tip. Linda likes dogs. Anthropology. What does that mean? Sports. What's is that anthem? Can somebody, Linda, tell me what that is? Ophthalmology? Is that what that is? Is that about the eyes? Where's she at? Can somebody help me out? She can't talk. So if you're going to post about dogs. What about dogs? Training dogs, loving dogs, doing dogs. Like, what is that all about? Right? Do you think that you can go right now on Facebook, and now if you like dogs, you could literally go to dog parks in your neighborhood. If you live in a bigger city, you could go to dog parks and rotate dog parks and sling ketones. Does that make sense?
Yes. To answer your question, that's ophthalmology. And I've been in ophthalmology for almost 40 years. So I can do anything about eyes.
Eyes. Holy cow. Do you think you can give any of us tips? Give me 3 tips about the eyes that you don't think I would know.
Well, first of all, with all the computer use that we do, you need to use artificial tears because the corneas get dry and the vision gets blurry.
Huh?
Secondly, you need to get blue blockers for the blue glare that comes off the computer screens.
Oh yeah, baby. Here we go.
Yeah. And then thirdly, if you have like any medical issues like diabetes, RA, things like that, definitely have an exam every year to check your retinas, because the retinas are the film of your camera, so to speak, and you need to have that checked.
Awesome. So this is a cool thing. Like now, you probably don't have a lot of eye conferences that you can go to or put a booth at, so that's probably not going to be an avenue for you. But at the end of the day, from a social, like you give a tip a day about eyes. You give 5 tips a week. I don't know much about eyes. If I saw you, I'd be like, hey, hey, that's a good tip. What are blue blockers again? What you're doing is I know blue blockers, but meaning that is that you're attracting people for what you're strong at. Because if somebody asks you a question about eyes, do you think you can answer them and give them some insight and guidance? Of course,
yes.
Right? Of course. So now you created a relationship. They're getting to know you as a person of what you like to do. So what you're doing is you're attracting your tribe. And when you attract your tribe, you can have real conversations with people, not go, Dustin, what do I say about ketones? Does that make sense? Once you have the relationship, now when they see your post about how you have more energy, they're like, girl, like, how do you have more energy? You've already built their trust up because you've already brought value to them in what you already know. Is this making sense? Parenting and faith. Dina, that's powerful. This is our business, y'all. Attraction marketing is the simplicity of what we do. So once we get the attraction down, right? some people call it curiosity marketing or attraction marketing. What we're trying to do is get people to come to us to talk to us about who we are. And then what we're trying to do is get them to, we have a shiny object, right? Us, me and a shaker bottle, right? And then they're like, okay, what's that? But if the person just started following you and doesn't know you and all they see is you trying to sell ketones, well, they think of you as a keto person. They ask you a bunch of questions you can't even answer, right? Instead of as an I person that lost weight drinking ketones. And they're like, how'd you lose that weight? I drank ketones. You want to try? Sure. Then it's just a conversation. Apparently Lola likes cats, Jen. So my challenge for everybody on here, anybody want to add to that? Anybody have any questions? Kate, I'm going to let you add to that if you'd like to. Lynn enjoys travel life and fullest in the second half of her life. Good. Smoking joints. Jeff said, oh, sorry, smoking pork butts and pork shoulders. Yummy. Here's the Jeff, just so you know, I actually follow a couple of people that do a lot of grilling. The reality is you can literally post the same, like you could, every time you smoke a butt or smoke a shoulder, you could post it and you could do that 10 times a week and it wouldn't be too much. You don't need a variety. I'm going to say that again. You do not need a variety of posting. Assume that most people don't see your post and assume that most people are new watching you. We live in the world of, I mean, literally Kate does the same stuff over and over and over and over and over. And she reminds me that, Dustin, do the same thing over and over and over and over again. Okay. Anybody have anything they want to ask or they feel like they're stuck in this? Hard for me. I love food, travel, and wellness. Sarah, pick one. What? I'm going to talk to Sarah for a second. Sarah, why is that so hard for you?
Hey, because I guess I think for me it probably would be food because I'm quite a foodie. I love to explore different cuisines. I've lived all over the world. At the same time, like I'm so passionate about the other things as well. So it's trying to find what would stick best, I guess, because I can't do all of them right.
Well, you can. I think the more you get into the niche of one thing, the more, and Kate will probably agree, the more successful it'll probably be because you're kind of honing into your audience. But it doesn't mean you can't post about the other stuff, right? Yeah. So if Sarah says behind the scene, or sorry, I forget what you said. Okay, it's love food, travel, and wellness. Well, the reality is that you can put food and travel together. It just reminds me of one of my favorite restaurants in Florence, Italy. And I made this dish because it reminded me of that amazing place. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. So you could have fun with it. You could be creative with that and tie them together. And then the wellness kind of goes along with everything else.
I know.
Right? That's all. To me, that could be one niche. It's just you're basing it around the food, but it kind of ties it all together. I don't see it has to be really that separate. Now, there's people that like to travel that don't. My buddy loves to travel the world, but doesn't care about food. He wouldn't make food the focal point. He'd make the beautiful pictures of where he's traveling, right? That would be his, it might be food sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Kate, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this topic, as you know. And by the way, can I just give a shout out to my glasses? These are my Lynn Knowles glasses that I have on right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I need to see a little bit better. So when we try to speak to everyone, like at Hacking Better, we did some of these breakouts and I'm like, who's your avatar? Who's your target market? And someone said, anyone with a pulse. And I'm like, not really. Like when we try to talk to everyone, we end up talking to no one. No one hears us because we're trying to talk to everyone. So, you mentioned that whole know, like, and trust. And when you guys are thinking about your content and like your niche, know that that's how people are going to get to know you. Like people get to know me because I post like all these low carb recipes and they start following me because they want to see more of that. They want to see more of that type of content. So that is the majority of my content. I think my ratio is like 5 out of 6 posts for like my reels and my TikToks and that sort of thing are recipes. That's how they get to know me. That's how that the attraction marketing, right? Like I'm attracting them to me, but then how they really get to like me is the sprinkles, the spice, where I'm posting about my dogs or my kids or something funny. My husband's turning into an old man and he stands at the window and watches people outside in their yard. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're turning into an old man. So like I post like those kind of things. That's how they get to like me, is those sprinkles, that little spice. But it's not the meat and potatoes, right? Like the meat and potatoes is the attraction part for me, is the low carb stuff, the eating lifestyle stuff. And then I've got my spices, that is my husband, my kids, my dogs, my travel, my business, my ketones, that's all of that. And then how do they trust me is because I show up every day. I show up every day. I don't miss a day. So they know, like, think about it. Like the people that you trust in your life are people who are consistent in your life. Like one of the reasons I trust Dustin so much, why we work so closely together, is because I know he's always going to be there. Like that, right? Like that makes me trust him. People are looking at you the same way. Are you consistent? And that's how they trust you. And people do business with people that they trust. So hopefully that helps. Layla says, Kate, I've got a question.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm thinking of someone else, but didn't you say that when you first started, you did not like cooking?
No.
I didn't. I still don't like cooking, sister.
So how did you buckle down to, God, I hope you guys didn't hear that chime,
Don't worry
sorry.
about it. We love babies. We love babies.
How did you buckle down to get to the low carb recipe of being your thing when you didn't so much like cooking and you weren't necessarily low carb? Does that make sense?
That makes 100% sense. And I love that you asked this question. And I get asked this a lot. Like, if you don't like cooking, how can this be your niche? So when COVID hit and we couldn't eat out all the time, I was cooking. I've always had my basic low carb recipes that I've made like 100 times. I don't enjoy it, but I was doing it. And my husband said to me, Kate, don't you think there's other women out there that want to live this lifestyle that also don't like cooking? Like they want something super simple and they want something that is actual ingredients they have in their kitchen and not something you have to go to some specialty food store. Don't you think they want something that's going to be really quick because they've got busy lives? That's who your market is. It's people who don't like to cook. Right? Like I make low carb recipes, not fancy, like, let me create my own taco seasoning. I'm going to show you how I make my homemade ranch dressing. And I'm going to show you how I can my tomatoes. No, ma'am. My recipes is, see this can of Rotel? We're going to use this today. See this package of taco seasoning? I got you. You're my person if you're using pre-packed, like, that's my target market. It's people who, not just low carb eaters, and definitely not keto people. Keto people actually don't like me because they're like, oh, that's not keto. Oh, no, that doesn't like blah, 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 blah. My target market is very specific. It is a mom who doesn't want to spend a bunch of time in the kitchen, but wants a low carb lifestyle, stuff that her kid's going to like, and ingredients that she can actually go to Walmart and buy. Does that make sense?
And I'm going to add to that a little bit. Remember, I said this earlier too, is Kate grew into that. She didn't start that way. She had to find that. Kate could have grew the same business at the same rate or even faster if she had doubled down on photography, which is what she's actually specialized in. She chose to not want to be in that space. And so she grew into another one. And I don't mind people choosing a path. The keto dad and keto mom were not keto people when they started. And they kind of took a niche and they ran with it. But there's an intention behind that. I want to be clear here. Their intention is they're badass business people and they're 100% focused on growing a business. Does that make sense? They were committed to the process of doing something that they weren't necessarily that skilled at the beginning. And they grew that confidence. And anybody can do that. any one of you can do that. The reason why I'm talking about the way I talk about it at the beginning is that when people come in and try to change who they are and do something they've never done before, most of the time they quit before they get started. They can't stay consistent to it. If I told you, hey, you're going to start teaching, Liz, you're going to start teaching football skills. That's how you're going to grow everybody. You could do it. I guarantee you could do it. You could grow a huge multi-million followers social media with Liz. I don't know a thing about football, but let me teach you what I know. And she could literally do it that way, but it may not be the right place for her to start and to build the most confidence off of. Does that make sense? I just want to, Layla, I want you to know that. So whatever that is, that niche is, what I can tell you that it might surprise you what grows the most. And if people, I tell people, if you're willing to be consistent for 30 days and you go to your social media channels and you literally, I call it the shotgun method. And you're like, if you truly don't know what to do, post a little bit of everything for 30 days and then find what sticks. Now, you might not like what sticks. I did this on TikTok, and ironically, my following became fitness. I love fitness, but I don't really want to talk about it anymore. I'm kind of past it in my life. Like, it's not something that's in the front of my brain. But if I don't post about fitness on TikTok, I get no views. If I post about fitness, I get a lot of views. True story. So I did this shotgun approach. I didn't like what I got out of it. I didn't want to stay there. It's not fun for me to post about it. It's not exciting for me to post about it. And so therefore, guess what? I'm not getting a lot of conversions off of that. Does that all make sense? But it is a way, if you want to post about 30 different topics and see what sticks, then you can maybe pick one of those niches. I don't think it's the best way to go, but it is an option to go with. That's me. I didn't want to talk about photography anymore. That's what she said. So I give you an example, like Chad's a truck driver. Every time I see him, he's driving a truck. He could literally, and the thing is about Chad is he could literally post about trucking every single day. Life of a trucker. And I mean, he could do a video about walking into a gas station and getting a hot dog with no bun, because that boy, you haven't seen a carbohydrate in at least 3 weeks, have you, buddy? I had a very stern conversation with Chad, and he's crushing it. That's awesome. But you could have Sandy right now, Sandy Henderson, how are you? Sandy could literally talk about I don't know exactly your role back there, but I'm just going to use this word as the administrator or the secretary life. She could post about that and talk about funny memes. One of my favorite things I follow is actually a nurse. And I think it's a dude. Honestly, I don't think it's a lady nurse. I think it's a dude nurse that doesn't show his face, to be honest. And he's growing a social media following because he does funny memes from hospitals. And it's funny stuff. I love watching it because it's amusing to me. But Sandy could literally go, take a selfie of her with her glasses in her mouth and do a funny meme and literally do something like that every day and grow a following of people that work in offices. Am I kind of giving you some ideas? Is this making sense? For you, Dawn, the reason why I would avoid you said you talked about medical stuff, and I would avoid that topic of things, but you could talk about natural tips to get healthy. If that makes sense, just a little different way of wording it. So you're not caught up into medical conversations, just an awareness. Who else we got here? What's up, Zoom user? Like Rick knows a ton about kettlebells, but he also knows a lot about the airport system. If it's legal, Rick can give you a lot of cool tips about how to maximize your travel from inside the airplane, right? Because he's the ground crew. Look he's on the ground right now at the airport in Dallas. But there's a lot of things that you can do niches on, right? It's just a matter of committing to it and sticking to who you are. My biggest thing is I want, when you get into a conversation, I want Lola in more conversations about Disney, giving moms tips about how to make Disney better for them than about ketones. If she's in more conversations about Disney, she'll sell more ketones because she's going to gain more like trust. She's going to gain more trust, more like. They're going to like her better. What is it? Trust. What is it called again? No trust. No like and trust. They're going to get to know her. They're going to like her better. Not that they don't want ketones, but if you're doing a keto thing, you're really only talking to people that want ketones or want to do the ketogenic diet. Does that make sense? Your audience is limited right now. In 10 years from now, it'll grow. So I'm not saying don't talk about ketones. I'm just saying be aware of that. All right. Any other questions for me? What is my niche? Kelly, I don't know what your niche is. I'm not sure. Honestly, I was thinking about it the whole time when I was talking. Is that possible? Can I think and talk at the same time? I'm not sure. Excited for this replay already, thinking so many. Yeah, like Christine Telford, like she loves fitness. She should be giving exercises every day to her demographic. So like for Christine who likes fitness, Rick, I would say the same thing. It's like, who's your demographic? And then talk to them, and she should be giving exercises away. She loves it. Fitness and health tips, fitness and health tips, fitness and health tips, fitness and health tips, fitness. And I just got to meet Christine's mom, and she's just extraordinary, 82-year-old, just one of the neatest people. She's like, I offer some wine. She goes, I'd rather have a martini. I go, we can make martinis too. I mean, let's go for it. This is awesome. I like you. This is fun. It was super cool. Golfing in her 80s. That just makes me happy. Any questions for me right now? Anybody else have anything that they want to ask about their own niche? Anybody feel like they just don't know what their niche is? I want to iron this out. We've got a few minutes before I have to hop off. Carol, unmute for me, Carol. I've known Carol. How long have we known each other, Carol?
I think it's like 5 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And Carol, just tell me briefly your story of ketones. Highlights.
How I started, or
Just
how they.
highlights. What was your first? What did you want when you first started?
I wanted to get off the couch and get my life back.
Okay, and then did that happen?
It did.
Okay, how
It
much weight
happened in the first 30 days, and I always say, as a side effect, I'm down 70 pounds.
I would tell you to lead with the 70 pounds. How much did you drop in the first 30 days?
You know, I didn't really track it. It was a significant amount. I probably,
more than 10
yeah, I
pounds?
would probably say at least 20
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
Cool. So you like gardening and lake life?
Yeah.
Right? Is there any gardening events in your local area when in this time of the year?
Yeah, there are.
You could do a garden booth. I'm just giving you ideas.
Right.
You can do garden booths. There's a,
Right.
I mean, if you're not going to, like, if you're a fitness person, I tell you in your local neighborhood, go to different gyms, go try working out at different places. Why? You're meeting new people. Here's the secret, y'all. If you're a social person out in town, the number one thing you can do is to get people to follow you online and then be consistent online. So when I go out in town, when I'm heading to LCD, my goal is to get 5 people to follow me from door to door. That's always my goal. Door to door, 5 people to follow me. So I'm gonna have 20 conversations and get at least five people to follow me. And because I'm consistent online, they're gonna get to know, like, and trust me. My goal isn't to necessarily sell them ketones. This jacket, score, got me a customer. The stewardess on the airplane, right? She goes, "What is that jacket? That's a cool jacket." I go, "Are you drinking ketones yet?" She's like, "No." She goes, "Should I?" I go, "If you want more energy, focus, and fat loss, it'd be a great tool for you." She's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Hey, I gotta get to my seat. You on Facebook?" She goes, "Yes." Bang, bang. She's actually a pretty good influencer too. So we're gonna be talking about a few different things. But that was how I got her connected to my social media. But the same thing, if you sit down and if you're a gardener and you talk to somebody about gardening, a lot of people like gardening. So then they go to your Facebook page. But if you're talking about gardening and then they go to your page and they see something completely different, they don't quite know you yet. They don't feel like there's a connection there. Does that make sense? If you're a mom and you're focused on parenting and you know nothing about your parenting on your social media and you meet a bunch of moms, it's kind of hard to get them to follow you. Does that make sense? Because then they get on there, they're like, "Well, it doesn't look like she's even a mom." Well, then that person stops watching you because the connection has not been continued. Does that make sense? So I would tell you to go to different gardening shops all over town. Look up stuff. And you might just use it to go post on social media, but then you also meet people at the garden shop. And your goal is to get them to follow you online. And then they see how you lost 20 pounds in 30 days. And then now they buy ketones from you. Cool. The guy I met a guy in the parking lot 2 days ago. I was telling Kate about this. And I never got his phone number. We tracked on Instagram. And we basically, it was just like, I'm like, my focus is to get him on Instagram. Well, I have coffee with him in an hour and 15 minutes. And it's about the business. And we met in the parking lot. We talked about ketones for a second. He asked me about my shirt. "Hey, what's that shirt all about?" But he was literally laser beamed in. And that's another whole long conversation of the law of attraction. But the point is that I want him on my social media feed, because if I can't get him connected to coffee sooner than later, I got a follow-up system on social media every day for the next, until he stops following me. He's going to see me. He's going to see me. I go to Best Buy. My kids are famous in Best Buy. True story. They're famous. They walk into Best Buy. Everybody knows them. I haven't actually signed anybody up in Best Buy yet, but because I got the manager that is doing the hardcore diet and he's committed to it, he followed me because I was in line. I got him to follow me. Well, he got all of his people to follow me. So they walk in and my kids, they all know my kids. It's kind of weird. It's a little creepy, to be honest. They all know my family. Why? Because they all follow me. It's a matter of time before they're going to buy ketones. It's just a matter of time. Does that make sense? But because I'm consistently on there and I'm talking about my family, I'm not talking about ketones all the time. They're getting to know my family because that's what I post on my personal page. And for whatever reason, I gave him my personal page. I'm not sure why I did that, but either way, he has my personal page, not my business pages. So he doesn't know, he knows I'm a keto guy, but he knows more about my family. So I want to be quiet there. Dawn raised her hand. Any questions, Dawn, before we hop off?
Yeah, I got a question. So how do you exactly implement the ketones into your niche? So say I'm talking about health or I'm talking about gardening. How do I introduce the ketones into it?
It's there's a really good video that I have. It's called 421. And so like Kate had mentioned, most of her posts are about low carb dieting. And then she sprinkles in her family, her relationships, other things she's doing, and ketones. And the best thing to do to sprinkle in is usually your story in some version. Get really good at telling your story. One of my favorite things to do is for people that have been in for a while is tell their first 30-day story, right? Remember, the new person doesn't know you've been doing this for 5 years or 2 years or 1 year. They don't know anything about you.
Okay.
Right. And so that's how you sprinkle it in.
Okay.
It should be organically natural. If you like gardening, right, you might be drinking your ketones in the garden, talking about how you got more energy in the afternoon.
Okay, got it.
I'm just using that as an example. It doesn't have to be that. And then you have your stories on social media, on your Facebook stories or your Instagram stories. Well, you can use your stories and show people yourself making up ketones. You don't have to sell it to them. You're just showing them you're doing something.
Okay.
People will see what you're doing. They're like, what's that all about? But your overall message should be you. The biggest lesson I learned to improve it is this 20-minute call always goes long. I'm just a talker. I got to learn to shut up. It's never going to happen. But the biggest lesson I learned to improve it is that I wasn't truly being all of me. And because what happened when I got started is that I kind of got put into from a normal person that had relatively stability in our life. I was the one. So Michael and Brian kind of kept telling my story, but that really wasn't how I felt about my story. But I let that become my story, if that makes sense. And I had to go back and kind of who do I want to be? I kind of became this keto pro guy, but it's actually only a small fraction of who I am. So if you meet, so if you're on the keto pro page, that's a very focused, like Kate, it's very focused to one thing, but that's actually not me. And I don't recommend people to do that. If you go to my personal page, which I get way more signups off of, because it's all of me. It's who I am. That's me. That's the guy that I want people to know and get to like and to trust. The Keto Pro is more of an influencer page, which is a little different. But so don't mistake my Keto Pro page for who I am. Look at my personal page. That's who I am. That's what I'm asking people to do is who's that guy? They see me on the roof, doing the crazy Christmas Orient. I'm the Clark W. Griswold. That's who I'm attracting. That's exactly who I want. Clark W. Griswold. Right here in the flesh. So cool. Does that make sense? All right, y'all. I appreciate you. Well, we really went at it today. So thank you so much. But at the end of the day, go back if you're still watching, if you're still on, go back and write down what are the 3 things. If I was to ask your family, friends, and loved ones, especially if you're new, if you're a little older and you're trying to create your own, if you're looking at this as a business and you want to create a focused niche towards a focused topic, I'm completely cool with that. But just know that it takes a lot of time, consistency. I mean, if you ask Kate how many signups she got the first 30, 60 days outside of TikTok, it wasn't a lot. How's she doing now? She's doing great because she stayed consistent on a concept and she's fallen in love as that person. She became that person, if that makes sense. But if the best thing to do is find the 3 people that you are the closest to, or 5 people that you're closest to, and ask them what are the things that you are and that you could teach or that you're passionate about, and they're going to tell you the real truth. Ketones might be a fraction of that, and then own that, become that person. Find ways to create that more in your life. If you like to swim, go swim. Go find ways to be around swimmers and create that as your niche. I have a guy in Mexico, he's into swimming. Liam knows, or Norma and Osa know. So anyway, I appreciate you all. Chad, I want to see some serious trucking posts going on. He's a trucker. Truckers is a great niche, by the way. I'm just telling you, it's an unbelievable niche. You could literally post there's a million trucking memes. First off, you could just repurpose and reuse, but he could do a million things about trucking. And there's a huge niche there and nobody's tapped into that market. I'm just using that as an example. So y'all, I appreciate y'all. Have an awesome day. And remember, it is the end of the month. If you're running, go for it. Go all in. There's some fun things that are going to be coming. So stay tuned. There's always more things coming. So Chad is 18 days, no carbs, feeling great. Thanks, Dust. I appreciate you, buddy. Hey, thanks for committing to you. That's what it's about. You and your family. That's what you're doing this for. Y'all have a good day.